G'day, ladies and gents. We're looking at top 10 must-see Australian car chase movies. And for those watching who give a crap, happy Halloween. That's the day I'm recording this, all right? Have a safe and fun day. Alrighty, so must-see Australian car chase movies sounds really fun. I am a sucker for movies with an awesome car chase, right? And one of my favorite, that like lifts a movie up for me. If it's got a good car chase, I almost, don't care about the rest, right? This is a great suggestion. This is a Discord suggestion from Tony Pereira, and this is a channel called Map Film Productions. Yeah, Map Film Productions. All right, this will be linked in the description down below, so you can check them out, browse their channel, and watch this whole thing uninterrupted. Here we go, guys. It should be a fun one. Metal Skin, alrighty.
From the director of the Russell Crowe career-launching film Romper Stomper, Jeffrey Wright, comes his 1994 follow-up, Metal Skin. More art house than grindhouse, Metal Skin has a unique
Look at that car. That is wicked. I love it.
feeling as it chooses style over substance with its non-linear fast-cut editing and its odd scenario into mental despair of several characters, yet features some old-school Australian cars and street racing that makes it more than a film worth mentioning on this list.
Is a NASCAR in there?
One of the main featured cars is a 1971-72 VH Chrysler Valiant Charger.
Yeah.
Though not fully confirmed in its identity in the film, one of the best options available for the VH Charger was the RT E49, which had a popular inline-six 265 Hemi engine with 302 brake horsepower.
That's right. That's so
Another Aussie
weird to
classic
me,
that
but
featured
awesome
was
at
the
the same time.
1976 Tirana LX 4-door, made popular by the Bathurst-famous SS A9X hatchback 5-litre 308 V8 and
Now y'all know I love Tiranas. They're the best. So I think I gotta watch this movie.
SLR 5000 sedan with an output of around 250 horsepower. With a number of street racing scenes and a final chase at the film's climax, Metal Skin's biggest letdown that keeps from a high spot on this list is in its choice of frantic editing and not allowing for a coherent motion in its driving sequences or story.
Yeah.
Following on the success that was Romper Stomper from director Wright, Metal Skin with its $3.2 million Australian dollar budget fell short of expectations and grossed just under $900,000, which led to Wright's popularity decline soon after and not being the follow-up to his previous outing that some had hoped. Not a movie for everyone, nor a car chase film in the traditional sense, Metal Skin reflects a turning point where the old Aussie car chase of the 80s heyday came to its end and was replaced by what can only be described as a frantic change of direction.
Looks interesting though, right? Even if it's not the best movie, even if it flopped in the box office, hey, a car chase might be worth it for me. Weird scene. I mean, the Charger is as one of the main cars. That sounds awesome, right? Big Mopar guy here. Not to mention some extra excitement with the Tirana. Might be the only time in history I would not choose a Mopar is if you hand the keys to a Tirana in front of me. I might choose that. And then it looked like a NASCAR stock car in there. Pretty weird. I wonder what the story with that is. All right, let's move on.
The FJ Holden owes more to George Lucas's American Graffiti than it does to Two Lane Blacktop, which was also an influence on this troubled youth of Australia scenario. Though not focusing on the action of the chase, the film uses the backdrop of the Australian youth culture in Sydney in the 1970s, as it depicts the life of a young man at a point where the cruising nightlife is his main priority, as he uses his car to impress his friends and ladies after recently obtaining his license.
Nice.
As the title suggests, the main car of use in this film is a 1953 FJ Holden seen cruising around Bankstown. The engine available in the FJ Holden was a grey i6 2.2-litre 132.5 cubic inch, producing only 65 horsepower, yet is shown competing with the later model V8 GTS 327 Monaro, either suggesting a modified engine within the story or a massive suspension of disbelief from the filmmakers.
Yeah, hopefully we're gonna lean with he did some work under the hood, because that's pretty weak drivetrain if we're talking about some street racing, right? It's a fun part about movies is I think car chases and racing in a movie sense is still fun to watch, but sometimes I feel like they really you can tell if there was some actual car guys, gearheads involved, because some movies stay somewhat accurate and some movies go straight up what I say in air quotes like Hollywood, where maybe it's not so believable, right? But gotta take it with a grain of salt,
Poor performances from a number of the actors, including its lead, does hold the film back in a number of scenes, yet it's still an interesting tale of its time.
Yeah.
Directed by Michael Thornhill, It is said the budget was around 318,000 Australian dollars, which also included federal government investment. It was a low-key success, bringing in around 710,000 in rentals, as its drive-in performance was hindered due to an R rating in certain states and censorship issues at screenings. Now more than ever, the film plays as a docudrama on Australia that once was, as its story was set in the present of its time and chose to tell its tale from a more realistic point of view and not in any fantasized manner as a number of other films on this list did, making it an Australian movie worth remembering.
Now comes a startling new vision that takes you into the apocalypse and beyond.
Set in a dystopian future Australia, Dead End Drive-In was the 8th feature film by director Brian Trenchard Smith, as it depicted a world of street carnage and totalitarianism where the youth needed to be controlled by any means necessary.
Oh wow.
After stealing his brother's car and lying about his employment status in order to get a cheaper entry into a drive-in with his girlfriend, the character of Jimmy, played by Ned Manning, soon finds himself a prisoner within the gates of what can be described as an internment camp for juvenile delinquents and other social undesirables. Arriving in a Matador red with white trim 1956 Chevrolet Bel Air convertible with a 265 V8 engine, producing an output of 162 horsepower with an additional scoop, the car is soon incapacitated as Jimmy is detained within the drive-in, which was located in Matraville, Sydney, New South Wales, and was an actual drive-in that had been scheduled to be demolished before production took place.
Oh wow.
Aiming for a more worldwide appeal, the film did poorly in Australia, yet was better appreciated internationally and was cited as being the favourite of director Quentin Tarantino's Trenchard Smith movies.
Wow.
As a form of in-joke and retaliation.
Yeah, this looks interesting. You got the weird dystopian aesthetic. I bet it's like kind of a funky, odd, but maybe enjoyable movie, right? It looks interesting.
Trenchard Smith had decided to show his previous films on the theatre screen playing in the background, as he had insisted on including previously unreleased footage of his films that were removed by the censor board for being too violent. Dead End Drive-In ends with a climactic jump performed by stuntman legend Guy Norris, where a modified 1977 F-Series Ford pickup was launched 163 feet through the air, which was said to have been a world record at the time, breaking through the sign of the now demolished and gone Skyline Matraville Drive-In.
Oh, that's cool.
Dead End Drive-In.
Hey, you know what? I applaud that. You gotta love, especially movies from that era, the older movies. No CGI there, buddy. You know, we're doing with real. So I don't know, how they rigged it up all the time, but some vehicle is getting launched, right? If it shows a vehicle jumping, there's a vehicle really jumping, right? There's no computer magic there. So it's always interesting to see, I think, and quite crazy, right?
When the gap becomes too wide between what you've got and what you want.
Ooh, Porsche. Nice.
1982 saw the release of Freedom, a film about a troubled youth struggling to make his dreams of flash cars and flash women come true, as he is unable to find any meaningful, long-lasting employment or steady income. Starring the young and up-and-coming actor John Blake, who would suffer a tragedy in the form of a car accident a few years later.
Oh no.
Freedom failed to impress at the time of its release, and like a number of Aussie films on this list, was a box office failure. It was perhaps a story that played too close to reality of the struggling youth of Australia at the time, as unemployment was at a high point in the early 80s, and it may have been the rebellious attitude of Blake playing the character of Ron that turned older critics away.
Was there almost, well, he did say youth, so maybe there wasn't, I wouldn't say there was a full-on recession. You can tell me if there was. But early 80s, I wasn't around, but I've heard, were pretty rough in parts of the USA as well. There was almost like a mild recession.
The object of Ron's obsession being a silver 1977 Porsche 911 930 Turbo,
Damn,
where
what
it has
a
been
car.
said a standard 911 and an actual 930 were both obtained for the film. The 930 Turbo came equipped with a flat-six 3-litre engine, producing 245 horsepower, and had a top speed of 155 miles per hour, which at the time was valued at 80,000 Australian dollars.
Wow.
Ron eventually finds himself stealing the car of his dreams and heads out into rural South Australia, where he picks up a young runaway named Sally, played by Jad Capelja.
Nice.
The film also features a rare 1965 Australian-assembled Dodge Phoenix as the centerpiece of Ron's fantasy, as he has what at first appears to be dreams about seeing this mysterious black car swerve and crash before his eyes, and later plays out to be a premonition. The Phoenix came equipped with a 318 cubic inch 5.2-litre V8 with 230 brake horsepower, and although previous model years were based on the Dodge Dart, the 1965 model was a rebadged Canadian Plymouth Fury 3. Freedom was directed by future Academy Award nominee Scott Hicks, who would go on to direct the highly acclaimed 1996 movie Shine.
If you've ever longed for freedom, take the trip.
Wow. Interesting. Nice collection of cars in that one. Oh, dang.
The hardest of all the films to locate outside of a VHS copied format or even a trailer online.
Really?
Running from the Guns was one of the last of the car chase films of the 80s Australian cinema era, as the government had begun to lose interest in financially supporting films of its type. especially given its massive budget and huge loss at the box office. Played more for laughs as a type of international smuggling trade gone wrong film, as opposed to some of the more serious movies on this list. Guns has an array of stunts and wonderful cars to match. The main of which used is a 1964 Shelby Cobra that carried a 289 Ford V8 270 horsepower engine.
Nice.
The second and perhaps most memorable car used was a 1971 Ford Falcon XY GT in a track red color option, equipped with a classic 351 Cleveland V8 engine, as it is used in an aggressive manner and shows off its power quite well in this film.
Yeah.
Running from the Guns, originally titled Free Enterprise, does display some wonderful helicopter camera shots, along with some well-executed stunts, as we get a great chase sequence following along the Victorian coast.
Wow, that's
This is perhaps a film that deserves an updated release now more than ever, given its representation of a type of time and film no longer seen in Australian cinema, if only for the effort in its car chases and beautifully shot aerial photography of coastal Australia.
Yeah, seems like some decent clips. I mean, I wonder why it flopped that hard, right? Wow.
Nobody is safe from the man from Hong Kong.
Though not a car chase movie, as its focus is less on cars and more on martial arts, The Man from Hong Kong, starring Jimmy Wang Yu and one-time Aussie James Bond George Lazenby, was the first feature film directed by Brian Trenchard Smith, who with this 1975 classic helped launch the action era films in the Australian market, paving the way for others to follow. With two random chases thrown in for good measure, one near Uluru, at the time known as Ayers Rock, where a getaway takes place against a helicopter in a 1968 Toyota Crown Deluxe, which ends with a crash and explosion, leading to a flying piece of the vehicle almost slicing towards the camera.
Oh my god, we got Uluru in the movie. What a shot, right? Still can't believe how massive it is. We say that every time. I'm going to keep saying that thing is, it's unreal. What a cool, what an interesting setting, right?
While the other takes place in Stanwell Park near Sydney. The second of which occurred after a failed murder attempt of the film's lead character, a Hong Kong inspector sent to Australia to take down a drug trafficking ring. The car of choice for the big chase was once again the popular Chrysler Valiant Charger, this time as the 1974 770 VJ, which at the time had one of the biggest V8 options of the Chargers in Australia.
Let's get real. I don't care who you are, Mopars, especially Chargers, whether you're in Australia or you're in the United States. Come on, Chargers, they're one of the best movie cars. They're one of the best car chase vehicles. I mean, they're magical. They're awesome.
With the 360 V8 listed at over 255 brake horsepower. However, the 360 was not available with the manual transmission, and seeing the main character constantly change gears accordingly made it likely to be equipped with the previously mentioned standard 265 Hemi 6.
Yeah.
The Charger is seen going up against a 1969 Holden Torana LC,
good
a Kawasaki Z1A 900, and a 1968 Ford Falcon XT.
My uncle Greg, shout out. He would like that. He had a Kawasaki 900, very fast bike. He used to take it to the track and drag race it. Used to run pretty damn fast, from what I understand.
Being a brand new model for that year, only one Charger was obtained and borrowed privately under the condition that it would be returned exactly as it was given.
Oh no.
It was, however, subjected to major external damage and was repaired before being returned once the scene had been completed.
Oh jeez.
It was after seeing the film did the then owner witness their new car had been subjected to massive abuse, and they demanded the money back for the cost replacement of the no longer new Charger, which was eventually given by the producers.
Ooh.
Lasting over 7.5 minutes, the chase plays out almost as though it was not choreographed, and the film's lead is seen doing some of the stunt driving himself, with a lot of collisions and barging taking place, until the chase comes to an abrupt end with the XT crashing through the side of a house and later exploding in typical car chase fashion.
Wow. Crazy stuff. This looks like a good one.
Following up on the success that was perhaps the pinnacle of Aussie car chase movies that came out the year prior, the 1980 action thriller The Chain Reaction continued the theme of government distrust and social unrest as a cover-up scenario at a nuclear facility takes place after one of its leading scientists is heavily radiated via contaminated water spillage. The story sees the character of Larry Stilson, played by Jim Goose himself, Steve Bisley, and his wife, who take time off away at a nearby cabin where they're intruded by the said scientist, who is on a mission to warn people of the danger that is about to take place due to the contamination of the water supply. It is in this setting we get two high-speed chases between old rivals Ford and Holden once more, on the outback roads of Australia, in the form of the hero car driven by Bisley, a Holden one-tonner with an HZ quad light front end put in place with a stylized custom paint scheme.
Wow, love it.
Again, as not all engines are confirmed, its highest available option at the time via production was a 308 V8 between 215 to 250 horsepower. Man. The second of the two vehicles, as driven by the power plant agents, is a 1973-76 Ford LTD P5 in a Stratosphere grey paint scheme, and with a stock standard 351 cubic inch 5.8 litre V8 Cleveland engine with 290 horsepower and a top speed of 122 miles per hour or 196 kilometers. The P5 was the first Australian-produced LTD ever made, as prior to this, any Ford LTD available had been imported from the US.
Right.
The film was a modest hit, almost making back double its $450,000 Australian dollar budget. Miller would go on to take second unit directing responsibilities, along with directing the car chases. In addition, more than a number of the Mad Max actors would be cast in this film as well, including Hugh Keays-Byrne, and in a small cameo role, Mel Gibson himself, who was good friends with fellow NIDA alumni Steve Bisley.
No kidding. Oh, wow. There's some damage. Oh, goodness.
At the time of its release, Midnight Spares was seen as just another exploitation piece and not shown the respect it deserved, but has gone on to gain a following over the years, even to the point of being one of famed Hollywood director Quentin Tarantino's favorite Ozploitation films. The Ozploitation era of the 1980s came about when in 1981, the 10BA had been introduced as a tax incentive, which allowed investors a 150% tax concession on Australian films and TV shows, and to only pay tax on half of any income earned from any investment.
Wow.
This was what had led to the pouring out of a number of these low to medium budget films of the time, such as Midnight Spares. When released in 1983, it was one of the few movies, if any, to feature the lesser known motorsport of sprint car racing, which had become a popular pastime in Australia in that era. The story sets itself up as a young mechanic by day and racer by night Steve, played by James Laurie, comes back home to find his father is missing and his business is under threat by an organised black market car parts ring. Other cars included were a 1971 XL Chrysler Charger and the Aussie car chase familiar Falcon Coupe 1972 XA model and a briefly seen stolen 1979 Pontiac Trans Am, rare to Australia at the time.
Oh, nice Trans Am.
Midnight Spares would be marred by tragedy, while during one of the speed car scenes filmed at night, focus puller David Brostoff was tragically killed after an accident took place.
Ooh.
The film would go on to be dedicated in his memory, but showcase some of the issues of these low-budget Ozploitation films shot on the fly. Despite its light-hearted fun and typical sex appeal at the time by hiring Australian Playboy playmate Amanda Dole, did not perform well at the box office, with a 2.6 million Australian dollar budget, only gaining back 417,000, and would be the last film director Quentin Masters would helm. As time has gone on, the film has gained greater recognition since the release of the Australian Ozploitation documentary Not Quite Hollywood, featuring praise from the likes of Tarantino, and Midnight Spares is now seen as the fun romp comedy mixed with car action film it was always intended.
Alright, down to the final two.
Scumbag. Ready when you are.
Oh,
Similar to FJ Holden, Running on Empty revolves around...
Let me interrupt real quick. This is on my watch list for sure. This has been suggested many a times.
The youth car culture of the time in Australia, focusing more on underground street racing, and shows the interest as a type of lifestyle that only the free can understand in its well depicted, shown through the lead character of Mike, played by Terry Serio. Featuring a modified 1970 Dodge Challenger as the car to beat, Running on Empty showcases a number of well-executed street racing scenes, and a great collection of V8 muscle cars. The main car of choice seen throughout most of the film, shown ironically struggling to keep up, is once again the 1971 Ford Falcon XY, this time in the form of the now auction expensive GTHO Phase 3, which was said at least one of the 5 XYs obtained to play the role was genuine, and used for several stunts as well.
Oh my goodness.
On its own without modification, and sporting the common to Ford Australian muscle of the time 351 Cleveland, the Phase 3 was engineered to produce an output said to be around 380 horsepower, though listed under by official Ford documents to combat the increasing government and insurance issues of the time, which also meant the HO of its name was listed officially as handling option, as opposed to...
Yeah, that was the funny thing about once mid-70s, or I'm sorry, not even mid-70s, late 60s, early 70s, they did that here too. Manufacturers started underrating their cars because you'd have a car that's, got a big block V8, making only, like 280 horsepower, and the thing is like beating everything on the road. Yeah, I think they underrated it a little bit.
High output as originally intended.
Beat the insurance,
At the time of its manufacturing, the Phase 3 was the fastest 4-door production car available in the world.
That's right.
Outperforming the Mercedes-Benz 300 SEL 6.3 and producing a top speed of over 140 miles per hour, 225 kilometers, and 0 to 60 in 6.1 seconds, 0 to 100 kilometers in 6.4. The other vehicle which made its presence felt in the film was a 2-door 1957 Chevy 150, which has been claimed to have started out as a 4-door 210 with what is thought to have been a blown big block V8, possibly a 427, obtained after the HO was seen destroyed 3/4 of the way through the film. Shot in Sydney and in the small mining town of Cobar in central New South Wales by one-time Aussie director John Clark, even now approaching its 40th anniversary in 2022, and with a sequel said to be in the works.
Photo F57 Chevy. A blown 57 2-door.
Alright, numero uno, Mad Max. Yeah, boy. Now, I have seen that one. This is, I guess, the only one I've, recall seeing on the list. And this is a good one. This is a classic for a reason.
Coming as no surprise to most what the #1 choice was to be, given its worldwide recognition. However, as any one of the entries of the Mad Max franchise could have made the top spot on their own. It is the first Mad Max, which is the film that is closer identifiable with the Aussie image of the time, as it is set in a world still with enough recognition in its setting and cars to be undeniably Australian.
Yeah.
The main feature vehicle, and most memorable of which, was the 1973 Ford Falcon XB GT black on black coupe, seen as an extension of the character of Max Rockatansky and his fall into madness. This Pursuit Special would feature in 3 of the 4 films in the franchise, as it is heavily associated
What a badass machine.
With Mad Max, given its almost ghost-like presence when chasing down speeding hoons. Other cars featured recognizably in the first film used were a 1972 Ford Falcon XA sedan X-Taxi with a 6-cylinder and a 1972 Holden HQ Monaro 202 straight 6, along with 2 1974 XB Falcon sedans, one of which had a V8 302 and was an ex-Victorian police vehicle. The crashes and stunts of the Mad Max series are ones that many even to this day are impressed by, as Miller has continued to provide some of the most breathtaking action that makes even the most experienced of filmmakers question how they were done without any major incidents or fatalities.
Right.
Being the most famous of the Australian car chase movies, as it is also surprisingly the only one on this list to have any sequels produced, Mad Max has become an international icon of action and car chases that paved the way for many to indulge and appreciate the Australian action cinema. If you enjoyed this video...
That was great, man. That was great. Really well put together. Excellent list. And a video like this where I can really learn a lot at once is just awesome, man. One of my favorite things. So that was excellent. Great suggestion. I highly encourage you to click the link in the description. You know, watch their video uninterrupted. Check their channel out. That was excellent. Seriously, great stuff. And there you have it. It's very interesting to see movies from Australia. Of course, I've known a couple, you know, here and there, but like these, a lot of these I did not know, and it's very cool to see, especially when we're talking about cars, car chases. That's, of course, you know, is right up my alley. This was just all around fun. Let me know which one of these is worth seeing in your perspective, which one of these was your favorite, and perhaps something along with car chases or something. It could be from anywhere. Let me know some of your favorite movies or car chases down below. Smash that like if you enjoyed the video and learned something like I did. Subscribe to be part of this amazing community. And with that being said, y'all, my name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. And until next time, y'all, catch you later.